We are Muskegon County at Work, spotlighting workers of local governments throughout our county, revealing what it takes to make our communities comfortable and safe. Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Muskegon County Municipalities at Work. Your host here, DJ Hilson, with yet another, diving into municipal government. And today's going to be yet again another exciting conversation with a local leader. It's my pleasure to welcome Debbie Hillebrand to the stand. I wanted to say to the stand, but you're not. Yeah, you're not on the witness stand. Let's just start right there. Friendly conversation.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. As I like to, I want you to talk about yourself to start this podcast out. So tell us a little about who you are, how you got to Whitehall area, what you do, and why you made the decision to become a council person.
Okay, well, it's kind of a long...
It is.
Depends on how far back you want me to go. But I grew up in Pennsylvania, small town in Pennsylvania. You might have heard of it. It's called Williamsport.
Oh, yeah.
The Little League World Series is happening.
I've been watching the Little League World Series.
So that's my little hometown. My mom and most of my family still lives there. Made my way to Ohio, and where I met and married my husband. We lived and worked there in Cincinnati for, quite a few years. When we went to a class reunion, my husband grew up just outside of Flint in a little town called Davison. And we went to one of his class reunions. And afterwards took a little wander around Michigan so he could take me to the UP. So we crossed the bridge for a hot minute and came back and wandered around several different towns in Michigan. And our last night before we said, okay, time to go back home, we stopped, stayed overnight at a bed and breakfast in Whitehall, and we loved it. The town people were just so friendly. We felt very comfortable. We wandered around. We looked at different properties and thought, well, maybe this is a good place to retire. So we started looking at properties. We would come back on the weekends and that kind of thing, and we ended up buying what's called the Lewis House. It's an old Victorian that was a little bit neglected, and we bought it and fixed it up and turned it into a bed and breakfast. So that's my day job, if you will. So,
nice.
We transitioned from Cincinnati to Whitehall in 2009 to 12 was when we kind of moved. And so now this is our 11th summer running the bed and breakfast. So that's what we did that's what I do for my day job. My husband is a full-time professor as his day job. So.
Excellent. Wow.
So that's where we are.
Well, before we get into your government responsibilities, I always like to, because I myself am a little bit of a carpetbagger. I didn't grow up in the Muskegon area. And in fact, I didn't grow up in Michigan. So, for me, it was the job that kind of brought me here. And then I got to learn about how wonderful this place is. For you, it was sort of seeing how wonderful it was, in particular in the Whitehall area. Now, you mentioned the people and whatnot. What else about Whitehall was so attractive to you and your husband to make that kind of jump?
There are just so many things that we can do within walking distance of where we live. We're right across the street from White Lake. We're right on the bike trail. We can walk to the post office. We can walk to get groceries. We can do everything we need to do within walking distance of our house. There are so many pieces of entertainment. We are right next door to the Playhouse at White Lake. The Arts Council of White Lake is right downtown in Whitehall. We have restaurants and brewery and all kinds of things. We can spend all of our days just right there in town, and we don't have to travel to do the things that we need to do. I had never lived anywhere where I was in such close proximity. You get to get in your car and drive somewhere to go to the grocery or do that. So being close to everything is really attractive, and it's beautiful.
Well, yeah, I think I often forget about how beautiful that White Lake area is, and White Lake itself, and certainly the homes that surround it, and sort of those neighborhoods. And it's pretty cool that's part of our community, quite frankly.
Yeah, and living there and being there, we forget about it too. So that's some of the great part about running our bed and breakfast is we get to be ambassadors for the city, and we get to see it freshly through visitors' eyes all the time, every day. And we're often reminded, yeah, this is a pretty great place to be. We see it through their eyes all the time. So
that's awesome. So, okay, you make this big transition, and you're running a business. When did you decide, you know what, I don't have enough on my plate? I think I need to get more involved in my community by getting involved in government.
Well, that was I can't say it was something I always wanted to do. It was a bit of another bit of happy accident. We were at one of the festivals. There are, quite a few festivals that happen in the White Lake area. And a fellow council member at the time, Tanya Kabala, said, we were talking about it. It was, there were some seats open and whatnot. And she mentioned, maybe you should think about running for a city council. And I thought, well, everybody here in town has been such great support. I mean, it was a big project. It took us 6 years to renovate the property. So there was a lot of upheaval. There were dumpsters and it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. A prominent corner in the city was a mess for 6 years. But everybody was super supportive and helpful, and thought, that's a great way to give back and help the city continue to do good things. So I ran for council and got elected, and that's the
Here you
end.
are. So when did you run? When was the first year that you ran?
First year was 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what obviously you had some coaxing from some folks in town, and there must have been some. I think you indicated you wanted to give back, which makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of ways to give back to the community, but this, I think, serving in an elected position is one of the biggest ways that you can give back, because now you're a decision maker. So tell me a little bit about that. What has been? Let's start with one of the more challenging aspects of that position that you've experienced in your career.
Oh gosh. Well, it's not something that I come to by training. So I find myself having a city council seat, and I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I think many people are that way. So I think learning, first of all, what's the form of government? How does the city council interact with the city manager and the staff and all of that? What does that platform look like? So learning that, Whitehall has a council manager form of government. So council sets the policy, does all of the ordinances and things like that, but we have a city manager who runs the day-to-day activities. So all the council members are equal. We have a mayor who is basically just the chair of the board. It's not a more powerful position than the rest of the council members. So that takes some learning, because you think, oh, the mayor. Well, yeah, that's great, but basically it's just in Whitehall and many other municipalities in Michigan. It's just the chair of the board. So one vote among the seven. So that was an important piece to learn. And basically, like I said, just learning the how does council function with the council, or with the city manager and the staff, and learning how to run a meeting or be involved in a meeting, make motions, things like that. It's a pretty big learning curve that I think the idea of being on council, you don't think about the nuts and bolts of how it actually works.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting when you start attending a lot of meetings, especially when Robert's Rules. It is like a big deal, and they have this book that teaches right. you. I mean, it teaches you more than you probably need to know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, when councils or government agencies are functioning at their best, it's seamless. How have you found working with your fellow council people? As you said, everybody's sort of got an equal voice at the table. How have you found those relationships and managing maybe, I won't say arguments, but, any conflicts or disagreements? How have you found that?
It varies with different councils. I mean, it varies and changes. Sometimes it's if everybody had the same opinion, we wouldn't need 7 people. We could just have one council member and everything would be easy. So it's important. It's important to have the different voices, and the level of respect for that varies by council. And I've been a part of several. Probably right now is, I would call, the most dysfunctional sort of council. But, we try to get our points across, leave personal attacks and things like that out of it. Sometimes it works more smoothly than others. So that's probably the most difficult thing, is to get past ego. And, everybody on council wants to see good things for Whitehall. And we just have a different way of seeing that path. So we have to set goals. We have to figure out what's the goal we want to get to, and then figure out that path to get there. And arguing is sometimes part of it.
Well, sure. I mean, again, like you said, if you had a council full of people that just agreed all the time, what fun would that be? I mean,
right.
It's more challenging when you have to work through your differences, for sure.
Well, and you get to a better result.
Absolutely.
Because everybody's bringing ideas in, and you may have an idea that at first sounds to me ridiculous, but if you can have the opportunity to explain and other people can chime in, I think we often get to a better result than if we just come to the table with, here's where we want to go.
Now, it's my understanding that Whitehall just hired on a new city manager, brand new. And what was that process? Maybe you could explain a little bit to our listeners so they understand, because, again, the city council is responsible for essentially the hiring and I'll say firing of the city manager. Describe that process so they can understand what that looked like.
Sure. So our previous, actually, he has not officially retired yet. It's coming up later this month, but he was retiring, and we needed to find his replacement, which is a tall order. Scott Hubler was in the position of our city manager for 20 plus years. A lot of historical knowledge is walking out the door. And Scott's very good, has a very good memory. He can pull up history of, I can walk into his office and say, what do you know about this? And he can tell me all of the history. So losing all of that is going to be a big hit. But the process, so we hired a consultant to help us find our new city manager. So how did we start? The company was called Double Hall Solutions. They interviewed all of council members, some community members, to put together the criteria. What are we looking for? What kind of person? What qualifications? All of the details. And they put out the request for applications. Then from that pool of applicants, they kind of weeded out the ones that just didn't fit, and then brought to council, I think, 15 different resumes, applications, that kind of stuff. And we sorted them out and determined a few to interview. And then from there, we did the interviews, and then we narrowed it down to the person to make an offer to. And that was Dan Tavernier. I'm sorry, Dan, I'm going to get it wrong. And so he is on board now and officially our city manager.
Yeah, I think people need to appreciate and understand that it's you're not just posting online essentially looking for a city manager, because again, as you described in your opening, really the city manager is the day-to-day operator of city operations. And so that's kind of a big deal. Yes, all of the city staff reports to the city manager. That's all of our DPW, that's our police department, that's our clerk. Everybody on staff reports to the city manager. So yeah, so to go through an extensive process using experts to help is, I think, really, really important, and folks need to understand that process. Yeah, and it's also important too because there are 7 of us on council. Some of us have held jobs where we've done hiring and interviewing and all of that. Others haven't. So from a how do we do this perspective, we really benefited from having a professional who could manage that process for us, because the 7 individuals, it would have not been very successful. Yes, personalities. So talk to me a little bit about, since your time on council, what are some of the things that you've been really proud of accomplishing for the city? Oh, gosh. there are a lot. We are constantly,
every city should have the master plan. So there's kind of a target goal 30 years out. Where do you want to be? So, we try each election where we have seats replaced with new council members. We try to set goals. What are the things that we want to reach in the the next year, the next 2 years? How, the short-term goal of the master plan. So, one of the things that is important to me is that we are able to maintain what we currently have before we continue to add, before we add things that we can't maintain, and then it's just going to be a mess. So that's one of my goals, and I think we've been able to do that and try to make sure that our parks, we have a lot of parks, which is fantastic, that those are buttoned up and attractive, and we're not overgrown with weeds, and we just can't keep up. So I think being able to maintain some of the natural beauty of our area is a good thing that that I've been a part of. Our playhouse at White Lake underwent a massive renovation just before COVID. They opened the doors after the renovation just before COVID shut down, and that was a more than a $4 million project that was almost all private donations. So people care about the theater; they want to see it do good things, and I get to live right next door, so I don't even have to cross the street to go to a show. So having that functioning in our community is a proud moment for us, for me as a council member. Also, we have a city marina. The city operates the municipal marina there, and that brings boaters from all over the place for different reasons. So those two things about the city, a lot of people don't know those things, that the city owns them, and they're proud things that I'm proud of.
Well, yeah, again, I think for people who, whether you live in this community, it's been a minute since you've been to Whitehall, or you're seeing this and you're trying to figure out where you want to go visit, Whitehall certainly is one of the areas that people have to check out.
I agree.
Again, being a part of, from a business owner perspective, and certainly as part of city council, what have you seen as far as growth and development in the Whitehall area that kind of gets you excited?
Well, we have a brand new housing project there called the Tannery Bay. So all of that property was cleaned up, and now there's a fabulous housing development there. I guess you don't call it a housing development, a community of people who have come from all over. Some local folks have bought properties there, so it's a great lakefront community that is. It's been a big improvement. It's been a big draw. It's well done. So that's brings a lot of people to the area. Development otherwise, again, the renovation of the theater, that was a big deal. We were not able to operate it very much in the wintertime just because it was cost prohibitive to heat. And so we would basically shut it down all winter. Now we can operate it all year, and it's been very popular for not only the shows in the summer theater and the summer season, but also we can host events there, so people can have weddings and parties and things like that. So it's used for more than just a theater.
Yeah, and again, for a small community like Whitehall, I mean, that's a really added bonus feature.
It is.
That not only the residents can enjoy, but also other folks from surrounding areas can enjoy as well. Talk to me. One of the things that I've always appreciated in my time here has been the spirit of cooperation and collaboration amongst all the different municipalities. Have you? I guess a two-part question. Have you experienced that in your? I guess I'll say in your councilperson role. And describe to me how important that is to help you and your fellow council members be successful.
Yes, I have. Probably the closest one is the city of Montague. We're right across the river. So I like to think of it as we call it the White Lake community. because it is kind of one big community. So we do a lot of partnering with them for some events like parades. So we do our 4th of July parade. We do our holiday parade. They start in Whitehall and go to Montague. So we're always collaborating and things like that. The Arts Council is based in Whitehall, but they have shows at the Montague Band Shell on Tuesday nights. If you haven't come, you should come. There is a concert there every Tuesday night in the summer. So there are lots of things like that. And the council is involved in that because sometimes we have to close streets and make sure those approvals and safety and all of that stuff is in order and in line to keep everybody protected and able to enjoy such a great small town atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that I've always found that government works a lot smarter when we work together. And I don't know if there are opportunities for the various city councils from all the other, whether it be township boards or city commissions. Has there ever been a sort of a mass, if you will, sort of, summit, I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it, with all those officials kind of sitting around and kind of networking and talking about, well, we're having problems here. Hey, we got the same kind of that deal.
Certainly I don't know if there are specific summits or official pieces of it, but certainly the city managers are in close contact with each other, looking at best practices, some of those same things. So I'm struggling with this. How did you manage it? Especially, we have a new city manager with Dan, and I'm sure that the city managers, the other city managers are supporting him and offering assistance however they can. So those things happen kind of organically without an official, hey, let's do this. It just sort of happens because everybody wants to see their neighbors succeeding. So that's been lovely. I know that they have the mayors and managers of several of the municipalities have every so often they'll all get together and again trade best practices and see what's going on. Michigan Municipal League also has their conferences, and other organizations have conferences that many of our local municipalities participate in. So,
how have you found your relationship and interaction with community members? Has it changed since you've become an elected official? And how does that help you and maybe some of the challenges?
I always say that more people know who I am than I know who they are. And so it's been a lot of fun for me because of that. I'll go somewhere and people will know who I am, and then we'll strike up a conversation where maybe they wouldn't have otherwise. I'd just be another person in the crowd. And for the most part, I am just another person in the crowd. I'm a regular community member. I go to the restaurants. I go to the shows. I go for walks on the bike path. I walk my dog. I do all of the same things that they're doing. So it's really great to experience that and get to talk to people about it. And I love that they will approach me when otherwise they might not have. So it's been a benefit. I mean, certainly you hear more from angry people than you do from happy people. So sometimes the delivery isn't great, but if you can look past that and get to the message, it's always a win.
That's actually an excellent point. So how have you found? I want you to put your business hat on for a second. Okay. How have you found running a business? I'll say in a smaller community. I mean, it's not a metropolitan area, but how have you found running a business in a smaller community?
Well, again, my business hat is not one that I started wearing by training. It sounded like a good idea at the time, and so we went with it. And it has turned out very well. All of the folks at the city, with permitting and doing all of the things that we need to do to get things off the ground, super helpful. So it's been pretty smooth. And again, it was an old house that we bought and fixed up, but it was a prominent house in the community. So people knew the house and they didn't know us. So we would start to talk about it and they'll say, oh, is it that house? And so more people know who we are because of the house than we knew them. And it took us 6 years to renovate. So there were people watching that we didn't know. Just, local people would come walk by and check things out that we hadn't met yet, but now we'll see them and say, oh, well, we remember when. So there's always fun conversations that come up from owning the business and having those interactions with people.
So it's safe to say the city of Whitehall certainly is business friendly when it comes to the interaction between a municipal government and people wanting to potentially start a business, or if there's room for development for business purposes? I
think so. Yeah. I mean, there are always challenges and questions, and, people don't know where to look or what questions to ask. So not long ago, we went through and kind of revised some of our zoning ordinances to make it a little bit more streamlined. And if I want to do X, can I just go one place and get all of those guidelines versus, okay, but I have to think about signage and I have to think about parking and I don't know all of those things. So can we streamline it and put them all in one place? So we tried to do that, and always looking at ways to make those things more clear and user friendly. I'm not a zoning administrator. So I don't know maybe where to go to ask those questions. So to have them in order and lined up that's straightforward is super helpful. So I think we're always trying to look at ways to make it more business friendly. Certainly, we are a very small community. We have we rely a lot on tourism, which is important, but there are a lot of permanent residents there, not just tourists. So how can we make our business community thrive to support our local people as well?
So where can people go to learn more about when council meetings are? And I'm assuming that you have all your zoning ordinances, like you said, in one. Where can people go to find that?
Certainly the city website, cityofwhitehall.org. All of the council meetings are listed. All of the meeting schedules are listed there, as well as we call them meeting packets. So it's the agenda and all of the details that we'll be discussing at each meeting. Those are all posted ahead of time. Usually we meet on the second and fourth Tuesdays. So usually the Friday before those meetings, that packet will be posted on our website, and you can go and check out all the details. And, we always encourage people to come to meetings. Again, we hear more from the angry people than the happy people, but we encourage everybody to come to meetings because you don't know what's happening if you're not attending. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, you sort of highlight an important point, and it doesn't matter really the size of the city, but certainly when we're talking about Whitehall, it's important for residents to understand and appreciate what's happening in their town and what decisions are being made, and understand that they do have a voice,
right.
To express, opinions or what have you at city council meetings.
Right. And, probably every community struggles with, there are so many things we would love to do. There's just not enough money to do it. So we have to make some decisions sometimes that are maybe they're not popular, but they make fiscal sense. And that's hard to explain when you see something that you think needs to be fixed or changed and something else is happening instead. So to understand where those decisions come from and how they're made is important.
Yeah, so I think the long and the short of it is stay involved. Whether
right.
you decide to run for office or not, I think it's a responsibility for everybody to at least have some basis of knowledge as to
right.
Why people are doing the things that they're doing.
Yeah, and and it's not just coming to city council meetings. That's an important part. But city staff is always there at the their office hours are through the week. And they are super helpful. They're full of knowledge. They can answer almost any question, ordinance or zoning, or just how do I pay my water bill? Just all of those things there's so much knowledge in City Hall that is untapped. So it's fun when people get involved and they see it. So we always encourage people to go ask the questions because you don't know if you don't ask.
Phone calls still work.
Phone calls still work too. Phone calls. We have a Facebook presence. There's, opportunity for interaction there as well. Email. phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The good old-fashioned phone call still works today.
It does.
Well, thank you, Debbie, for being a part of this,
Thank
this
you.
conversation. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for answering the call to service.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And thanks to the folks that elected me and put me there.
Absolutely.
Without them, it wouldn't happen.
That's very true. That's very true. Very true. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's another episode of Muskegon County Municipalities at Work. Thanks again for tuning in and watching these episodes. I hope that they've provided some insight into the various levels of municipal government. And more importantly, you're learning something about how, your government works in the place that you live that maybe you didn't know. Until the next time, we'll see you later. And again, this podcast does not happen without the ingenuity of one Mike Vogus.